Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala!
All right, 6 minutes after 11 o'clock. You know, I was just thinking about this, Robin. The one thing that our guests seem to all have in common is they're all doing something good for somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of like the theme, almost, not just this morning, but almost every morning. Lisa Varner is in the studio, and she is the Community Outreach Coordinator for Hospice of Marion County. And she comes in now and then, or she sends somebody over here to talk about hospice. And there's probably not another group in town that has the spirit of Hospice of Marion County, and it's kind of a weird word to use, isn't it? But she's here today to explain to us again what they do and how we benefit from the work that they do. Lisa, you are beautiful. Rob, you said, "Oh, it's getting deep in here." Robin said, "Oh, you're looking beautiful." You said, "It's getting deep in here." How you doing?
I'm good.
You do look good. The pink headphones. This is the icing on the cake.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, how's everything?
We're doing well.
The big question I have for you today about hospice is this. Somebody, let's say, is needing hospice, and the doctor says, let's get hospice involved, right?
Sure.
The word hospice is then in the vernacular. Is that the word, Robin?
Yes.
Of the person who needs it.
Yes.
All of a sudden it hits home, wow, my days are numbered.
Right.
Right? How do you get around that? That seems to be the big moment. And then I'm guessing it gets softer after that because suddenly, all right, I've come to grips with my own condition. The doctor must believe I'm dying or I've got, a limited time. How do the hospice people handle that? I mean, you carry this wonderful thing about you. I mean, the hospice thing, but at the same time, the person who's getting the care is like, this isn't so wonderful.
Right.
You know?
Well, I personally haven't had a hospice experience, so I don't know what that's like personally, but I believe that when you know that your days are numbered, you have a choice whether or not to take every action you can to prevent death, or you can take every action you can to make the quality of time that you have wonderful. And hospice really helps make the time that you have great. And research studies have shown time and again that if you have hospice care earlier in your diagnosis, that you will live longer. So,
really?
Yes.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? We're here because you're dying, but you're going to live longer because we're here.
Well, if you get that,
funny.
if you have that hospice, that palliative approach to care, which is, providing comfort measures and relieving symptoms, then you will live for, I want to say for lung cancer, it's about 31 days longer. Who wouldn't want another 31 days, especially if all of your symptoms are managed? And I think congestive heart failure is the other big one, and those patients who had hospice lived 81 days longer than the patients who did not have hospice.
Really? And the quality of life was good, right? It was.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing we most often hear from people is, I wish we would have called hospice sooner.
Now, is the idea of having hospice at home new, or has that always been around? Because I've heard about more people. My own dad had hospice at home. And I always thought, before my experience with my dad, I always thought hospice was in the hospice house.
Yeah, you thought that hospice was a place you went.
Yes.
No, in fact, most of our patients are cared for at their home, whether that's in a nursing home or their private residence or an assisted living facility. But the majority of our patients are in their own residence, not in a hospice house.
And I like that word palliative because I learned that word too. My stepdad went to Estelle's house, but he was all shutting down. But I didn't realize that hospice would come in prior to that happening,
Yes.
allowing the person to make their dinners, go out shopping,
Right.
go to their women's or men's clubs, things like that. This is amazing.
Well, and I think, people still believe if you have hospice that you're not going to get any kind of care, that all treatment is going to be stopped. And that's not true. We're going to continue providing medication, and offering treatments that help improve your quality of life. We're not going to pursue treatments that would cure whatever is causing your health to fail. And honestly, we're all dying. We're living right now, but all of us have our days numbered. And so it's our own personal choice, if we want to take every measure that we can to prevent dying, which is it's going to occur. We can't prevent that.
Right.
Or do we want to say, what, I don't want to be rushed into the emergency room. I don't want to have CPR if I'm already have other conditions and I'm frail. Those are things to consider as we age, especially because people live so much longer now and they have multiple chronic illnesses. So there's just so many things to think about, and the best time to think about it is now, while we're healthy. To have those conversations with your loved ones and say, if it were to come down to where I had incurable cancer, I would want to go ahead and have hospice. And unfortunately, people think that there's no hope if you have hospice, but there's always hope of something. Maybe it's making amends with a loved one who, you haven't spoken with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure that happens a lot.
It does.
And do the hospice workers, are they all ladies, mostly ladies?
We are mostly women,
Mostly
yes.
women, okay. And do they have this maybe unintended function that they provide for the hospice patient, in that they're kind of like sounding boards, or you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like friends, basically.
Absolutely. And I hear from our certified nursing assistants quite a bit that a lot of what they do is listen to their patients. And especially, I would say, the social workers and the chaplains, really have great conversations with people.
I wonder what they get out of it, the workers themselves. They must... There's something that they take as well as they give, and not take in the selfish sense, but they benefit in some way, a better understanding maybe of human beings, of humans.
Well, and there's so many. Everybody has their own life story, and it's so much history in caring for people. As they're dying, and learning about that person and their experiences, and it's life's most difficult transition. And our employees feel privileged, the ones that are, caring for the patients and family patient care. They feel privileged to be a part of that family's very difficult time.
And from the family's perspective, and Robin and I both went through this, and she with her stepdad and I with my dad, I felt like, and I know Robin has expressed the same thing, that the contribution that you made to our families, to the patient is one thing, but to us it was very, very comforting to know. It's kind of like anything else in life. We have somebody there who's a little bit more knowledgeable about this. Dying is hard to say I'm more knowledgeable about dying, but you are. You've seen it.
Right.
You've been around it more.
Right.
Yeah.
And people worry about the costs. They worry that they don't have enough insurance. They worry they don't have enough income as far as the children that wants to make the person's end of life more comfortable. How do you deal with the financial aspect?
Okay, that's a great question. We have financial counselors who work with the patient and the family when they first come to hospice. Because we have bills that we have to pay, to discuss payment options. If somebody has Medicare, hospice is paid for, by Medicare. It's also paid for by Medicaid and your third-party insurance like Blue Cross, United, Aetna, those types. They have a hospice benefit as well. For somebody who doesn't have any of those payment options, we work one-on-one. If they're able to pay, then, we look at what's your income, what are your expenses. If you don't have the money to pay, we're not going to make you pay. And the only time there is a cost from the family for hospice, if they don't have insurance or Medicare or Medicaid, is if you're in a hospice house. Because of the around-the-clock care. It's much more expensive for us to take care of somebody who's in the hospice inpatient facility.
How did hospice come around? What is the history of it, so to speak? I mean, it wasn't always around. Did it start in America? Or
no, it started in England, and I believe it was Dame Cicely Saunders. I could be wrong. And then in America, I guess the book on death and dying by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, I believe, really led the charge for that movement in America. And I believe it was in the 1900s. It wasn't many, many years ago.
Because I'm guessing
fairly recent.
We didn't call it hospice, but I'm guessing a lot of people had somebody with them, taking care of them, just didn't have a word for it.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, the way we have such access to medical care now allows us to live so much longer. I mean, in the early 1900s, people had a heart attack and they died, or they had cancer and they died. There weren't all the treatments.
At 30, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so you didn't...
we're way over the hill, Robin.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you didn't live to have heart disease and diabetes and COPD and to have all these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like how you do events around the community, because you just don't go out there and say this is a fundraising event. It's always for something specific. I love the ornaments at Christmas time.
Thank you. The memory tree.
Yes.
And we sell those ornaments. Each year it's a different ornament design, and we sell those in the Paddock Mall. And it's an opportunity for people in the community to remember a loved one. And you can put an ornament on the memory tree without purchasing one of our keepsake ornaments even. So it's, a hospice, we have a lot of experience helping people deal with loss. So that's a perfect fit for us at that time, because the holidays can be extremely difficult for people who have experienced loss. So the memory tree is a nice community service, and it's also a way for us to make a little bit of money.
Who shows up at the door? Who are they? Registered nurses? Are they LPN? I don't even know all the terms.
Yeah, sure. We have everything from certified nursing assistants to LPNs and registered nurses. We also have chaplains and social workers and bereavement facilitators and physicians. So you've got the whole interdisciplinary team that's taking care of the patient and family.
Do you know, my mom had I guess he was a chaplain. He showed up, and I have no idea what really went on behind closed doors. I was not there, but she told me the story. She said he did his little spiritual thing and prayed with her and everything, and then at the end he says, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" And I'm picturing like a scene from a movie. And she says, "Yes, you can do something." And he's like all ears. "What is it? What is it?" She said, "Could you fix my shower head? It fell off." So the guy had to be a plumber for about a half hour.
It was wonderful.
He went in there, and he was with hospice, and he fixed the shower head. I said, "Oh, that's too funny." He's coming to address her spiritual needs, and she's got a plumbing need. So.
Well, that was all other job duties as a son.
And that's what's most incredible about all of the personnel from hospice, is you guys always go above and beyond. You have such a huge heart, and you make sure that the person that is needing it, everything's taken care of. It's never, no, I can't do this.
Right.
You know, you were one of the spellers in the spelling bee, and Robin and I were the we were called pronouncers.
Pronouncers.
Yes.
I never heard that title before, but we were pronouncers. and in our position, we were standing behind the spellers, and you were one of the spellers. And so you came up, and you didn't know this, and we didn't recognize you from the back. I apologize for that, but we know your face. We just didn't know the back of your head. And so you got up there, and we could pick the words. So when she said Lisa, I didn't really know your last name at the time, or I didn't hear it. I said, Robin, is that our Lisa?
Yes.
And she said, I think so. I said, well, find the word hospice. Is it in here? Is hospice or palliative? Is palliative in here? Find
We
one.
were looking.
She knows those words.
And I might not have been able to spell palliative.
That is too funny. What is the definition of that word?
Well, palliative, I say it's a fancy word for comfort. In fact, this month,
Oh, really?
September, is Pain Awareness Month. And, pain is one of the number one worries, or it's one of the top worries that people have about being sick or dying, is that they're going to be in pain. And so that is a huge part of what hospice does is, offer pain relief to our patients. We are experts at pain management. And you've spoken with Mike Siever.
He's great.
But the other part of...
Was he the pharmacist?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And the other part of what we do through our palliative care company, the Center for Comprehensive Palliative Care, is offer consults to patients who are dealing with some kind of life-limiting illness, and it doesn't have to be terminal per se. And that's the difference between hospice and palliative. You see, all palliative care is not hospice, because all palliative patients are not terminal.
Right.
All hospice care is palliative, because we are truly about providing pain and symptom management in hospice.
Really?
And palliative care does that for anybody. And we offer that service to the community through our palliative care company here.
And would that include pain that maybe wasn't associated with the reason they were dying? Like, for example, let's say they hurt their ankle and it's got nothing to do with, their liver or whatever, or their lungs or whatever's causing them to die.
If they're on hospice
If
care,
they're on hospice,
they could still have palliative care for...
So you come over and, I'm dying of lung cancer, but I hurt my ankle. You can give me something for my ankle?
What they might be giving you for your lung cancer would probably help with
Oh, it would
your
help the ankle. Okay.
I would think.
All right.
But one of the neat things about the palliative care program is that I remember a young man that they worked with who was in his 20s who had sickle cell disease, and he had some uncomfortable symptoms and side effects related to his illness.
That's too sad in his 20s.
And so they were able to work with him and provide some simple therapies that he could do to help relieve some of his symptoms. And so that many times that is offered at the hospital or in the nursing homes, because part of the thing that the palliative care team does is really help with discussions. Okay, you're having symptoms, but here's the big picture of your situation, and you've got options. What path do you want to take for your plan of care? What do you hope to achieve ultimately? They help have the talk with people.
I'm stuck on the age of that young man you just told us about, and it reminded me that hospice is not just for the elderly and the people who lived their lives, so to speak.
And especially the palliative care is, it's not. You don't have to be dying to have palliative care.
And how do you help the young person who is in their early 20s and that person is thinking they're not going to be around much longer and they want to leave some kind of legacy, some kind of contribution? How do you help them go about doing that?
Now, do you mean...
Well, they might have maybe a talent that they might like to draw or write music or something like that, and then they're afraid that they're never going to get around to it. So how do you encourage them to live their life and keep doing their day-to-day so they can leave a legacy of their own personality? Right.
One of the many services of the interdisciplinary team, I've mentioned the social workers, and we have some fantastic social workers who love hospice and the patients, and they help with all the cumbersome paperwork related to Medicare and Social Security, and they help with the advanced directives like your living will, life insurance. your arrangements, all that stuff, helping get all your affairs in order. But then they also help the patient with emotional needs that they have. And one of the great things that they do a lot of times is help coordinate some final wishes, like granting some final wishes.
Oh, nice.
So they have arranged weddings, renewal of vows. And not just the patient. We've had patients who got married, but we've also had patients' children who they wanted their dying parent to see them get married. So they've done those types of things. And this one social worker in particular, she has arranged for a lady who used to ride a horse in the circus to go to the Shriners Circus.
Oh, my.
And be like a VIP at the Shriners Circus.
Oh, wow.
And so these people, a lot of these people, you got to understand, transporting them is a headache in and of itself. But this social worker, she helps make sure all types of things like that can happen for people. One lady wanted to see snow, so she got a snow machine donated.
Oh, wow.
And so they had a snow day at one of the assisted living facilities.
Oh, how
that's kinda
wonderful.
cool.
So, yeah, we're really lucky to have the social workers with just the passion that they have.
Oh, wow. Is there a way that we could maybe help out with somebody's wish? Is there a wish list online or something? And
I don't know. We don't have anything real formal like that, but just to know that y'all would be a resource.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just, we'll get it's amazing. You can ask a question. This is like the original Google. You ask a question into this microphone, and somebody will call up with an answer.
Okay, great.
Well, it's more like Wikipedia, because it might not be right. It might not be the right answer. Yeah.
Have to do a little homework on
Can I
that.
ask you a question about human behavior?
Sure.
Does a flirty man continue to flirt right up until the day he dies? Because this is going to be me. I'm going to be on that deathbed, and there's going to be a cute nurse, and I know I'm going to die, but you're hot, baby. And I can imagine it's going to be me. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, have you noticed this, or am I wrong?
I have not noticed this, but that's because I don't have a lot of
But I bet
contact with patients.
The others have.
I bet some of the CNAs have some stories to tell. Because
Well,
the
that's good news, though.
CNAs, and the CNAs, they're the ones who are providing the personal care. They're helping with bathing, and that's much more private. And so the CNAs are actually the ones who a lot of times the patients will open up to because they feel so close to that
I guess
CNA.
so, yeah.
They develop such a relationship with them.
Lisa,
And you have such a great one-on-one with
Yes.
all of the patients
Yes.
because there are things that patients don't want their families to do for them.
Sure.
And hospice helps the patient keep their dignity about them.
And my mind I've lost my thought.
Okay.
So.
all right. I have a good, easy question
Oh,
for you, Lisa.
good. Thank you.
Is for somebody who's listening, they, I don't know how they'd make the first step, but how do they talk to you? What's the best way to connect with hospice? Is it a phone number or just stop by?
You could just stop by our office, but we have a referral line, and anybody can make a referral to hospice. This is
Okay.
a great teaching moment right here.
Yeah.
But people think they have to wait on their doctor to bring up hospice. But anybody can call hospice and get that ball rolling and say, you know what, I want to talk to somebody at hospice about whether or not my situation is appropriate and how do I get my doctor to sign the paper. And I'll tell you a few things that indicate somebody might be hospice appropriate. And these are, if you've been hospitalized 3 times in the past year for emergency situations, you've fallen recently, maybe you've stopped taking medication or you don't want to take your medication, you sit around most of the day, you either sleep or just sit most of the day, you've lost weight without trying. Those are all indicators that somebody might be hospice appropriate. And anybody can make that call. The phone number is 873-741-5.
Okay, 7415.
Yes.
And Robin does have that information on the WOCA site for the listeners if you want to
Well, if they call the main number, it's 873-7400.
Okay.
But the referrals line is 7415.
Okay, that's referral line. Okay.
I just want to real quick say that on October 3rd, we're having another of our Living Healthy with Chronic Disease workshops. Free workshop, 6-week series. It was developed by Stanford, and it's to help anybody with any type of chronic illness. It's not a terminal illness per se, but like I have participated in the workshop because of anxiety, and it's just a great program to give you some tools to help you manage your illness and have a good quality of life.
All right.
Wow, that is so beneficial, and that is so refreshing to hear something like that, because sometimes people don't feel where to turn. They feel like everything's done and they're lost and there's no hope, and you give everybody hope.
Yes.
Lisa, you are a bright light, a bright spot in our community, and you definitely make our studio bright. Thank you for coming in as you do.
No problem.
And come back.
Okay, I will.
All right. We will take a little break, and we'll be back.
You're listening to WOCA News Talk 1370, Ocala's source for what's happening in today's hottest, up-to-date news and topics.
Candy's Place Nursery has been helping special adults in our community by giving them an opportunity to engage in meaningful employment while providing